Hi everybody. When we left off with Beezus and Ramona, they were in the art room and Ramona was supposed to be playing outside in the sand pile, but she brought her imaginary lizard in, Ralph. She just pretends he's at the end of a string. And Beezus was sitting by a boy named Wayne. We had a new character. And then Ramona got to stay in the classroom, so she was sitting between Beezus and Wayne when we left off. All right, I'm going to reread a little bit just so we can get our mind thinking again about the story. My little sister has lots of imagination, said Beezus. Everybody says so. Miss Robbins smiled reassuringly. That doesn't mean that you don't have any. I think your trouble is that you just work too hard. You don't have to be so neat. Why don't you start another painting and just try to have a good time with your paints? Beezus looked uncertain. It was a nice change to have a grown-up tell her she didn't have to be so neat, but she didn't understand how she could paint a good picture unless she worked at it. If only she had some imagination like Ramona. But no, Miss Robbins said everybody had imagination. Well, if she had imagination, where was it? And why wasn't it helping her with her imaginary animal? All she could think of was that cardboard horse on the billboard. Beezus glanced over at Ramona, who had been surprisingly quiet for a long time, to see how she was coming along with her picture of Ralph. Except for the stripe of sky across the top, Ramona's paper was blank, and now she dipped her brush in yellow paint, divided the hairs of the brush into 3 tufts, and pressed them on the paper, leaving a mark like the track of a bird. That's not the way to use a paintbrush, said Beezus. Besides, you're getting paint all over your fingers. Look, it's Ralph's feet marks, exclaimed Ramona, paying no attention to Beezus. You mean footprints, corrected Beezus. Now go on and paint the rest of Ralph. Feet marks, said Ramona stubbornly, making more footprints across the paper. And I can't paint him because he's just pretend. Oh, well, thought Beezus, maybe making footprints isn't that so good for the brush, but it keeps her quiet. She dabbed her own brush in green paint and tried to stir up her imagination. She felt a little encouraged because Ramona was having trouble too. Hey! Interrupted Wayne in a loud voice. She's licking my sucker! Ramona! Beezus was horrified to see Ramona no longer interested in footprints, calmly sucking Wayne's grape-flavored lollipop. Ramona, put that down this instant. You're not supposed to lick other people's suckers. You give me that. Wayne made a grab for his lollipop. No! Screamed Ramona, trying to hold it out of his reach. I want it! Ramona, give it to him, ordered Beezus. It's all germy. Yeah, you mean she's getting germs on it, said Wayne. Give it to me. The rest of the class stopped painting to watch. Wayne made another grab for his lollipop, but this time he grabbed Ramona by her wrist. Let go of her, said Beezus angrily. Ramona howled as Wayne tried to pry her fingers loose from the lollipop stick. He knocked against his muffin tin, which flipped into the air, spattering paint all over the table, the drawing boards, and the floor. Ramona was splashed with red and yellow paint. Blue and green ran down Wayne's jeans and onto his sneakers. A pool of brown paint dripped off the table and onto the floor. Now see what you did, said Wayne, after he had pried his sucker out of Ramona's fist. See what you did, contradicted Beezus. Picking on my little sister like that? I'm going to show you the picture. She picked up the paper towel the sucker had been resting on and began to wipe the spatters off Ramona, who continued to howl. Boys and girls, Miss Robbins raised her voice. Let's be quiet. When the room is quiet, I know you are thinking. Lots of people don't know you have to think while you paint. Then she turned to Wayne. All right, Wayne, you may get a damp cloth and wipe up the paint. I'm sorry, Miss Robbins, said Beezus. I want the sucker, screamed Ramona. Suddenly, Beezus decided she'd had enough. This art class was the one place where Ramona was not supposed to be. She was supposed to play in the sand pile. Mother had said so. She was not supposed to upset the class and spoil everything with one of her tantrums. Beezus made up her mind she was going to do something about it, and right now. Though she didn't know what. Ramona, stop it this instant, Beezus ordered. Go out and play in the sand pile where you belong, or I'll... Frantically, Beezus tried to think of what she could do, and then she had an inspiration. Or I'll tickle you. I guess I do have some imagination after all, she thought triumphantly. Instantly, Ramona stopped crying and she hugged herself and stared at Beezus. No, don't tickle me, Beezus. Don't tickle me. Then go out and play in the sandbox like Mother says you're supposed to, said Beezus. Oh, don't tickle me, shrieked Ramona as she scrambled off the stool and ran out the door. Well, thought Beezus, it worked. It really worked. Feeling suddenly lighthearted, she tacked a fresh sheet of paper to her drawing board and sat staring at it. Maybe Ramona didn't have so much imagination after all. If she couldn't draw a picture of an imaginary green lizard, well, if Ramona couldn't paint a picture of Ralph, she could. Ramona was not the only one in the family with imagination, so there. Beezus seized her brush and painted another sky with bold, free strokes. Then she dipped her brush into green paint and started to outline a lizard on her paper. Let's see, what did a lizard look like? She could not really remember. It didn't matter much anyway, not for an imaginary animal. She had started the lizard with brave, bold strokes, and it took up most of the paper, and it kind of looked more like a dragon. Beezus promptly decided the animal was a dragon. Dragons breathe fire, but she did not have any orange paint, and she was too late in starting this picture. She didn't want to take time to mix any up, so she dipped her brush into pink paint instead and made flames coming out of the dragon's mouth. Only they didn't look like flames. They looked more like cotton candy. Beezus had eaten once at the circus, and a dragon breathing clouds of pink cotton candy was much more fun than an ordinary flame-breathing dragon. Forgetting everyone around her, Beezus made the pink clouds bigger and fluffier. Dragons had pointy things down their back, so Beezus made a row of spines down the back. They did not look quite right. They looked more like slanting sticks, like lollipop sticks, of course. At that, Beezus laughed to herself. Naturally, a dragon that breathes pink cotton candy would have lollipops down its back. Eagerly, she dipped her brush into red paint and put a strawberry lollipop on one of the sticks. She painted a different flavor on each stick, finishing with a grape-flavored lollipop, like the one Wayne and Ramona had shared. Then she held up her drawing board at arm's length. She was pleased with her dragon. It was funny, colorful, and really imaginary. Beezus wondered what she should do next. Then she remembered what Miss Robbins often said. It was important for an artist to know when to stop painting. Maybe she'd spoil her picture if she added anything. No, just one more touch. She dipped her brush in yellow paint and gave the dragon an eye, a lemon drop eye. There, her imaginary animal was finished. By that time it was 4:30 and most of the girls and boys had put their drawing boards away and had washed their muffin tins. Several mothers who had come in for their children were wandering around the room looking at the paintings. Those of you who have finished, wash your hands clean, and I mean clean, said Miss Robbins. Then she came across the room to Beezus. Why, Beezus, she exclaimed, this is a picture to be proud of. I didn't know whether a dragon should have lollipops down his back or not, but they were fun to paint, said Beezus. Of course he can have lollipops down his back. It's a splendid idea. After all, no one has ever seen a real dragon, so no one knows how one should look. Miss Robbins turned to several of the mothers and said with admiration in her voice, now here's a girl with real imagination. Beezus smiled modestly at her toes while the mothers admired her picture. We'll tack this one in the very center of the wall for next week's classes to see. It was fun to paint, confided Beezus. Her face was flushed with pleasure. Of course it was, said Miss Robbins as she carefully placed the picture in the center of the wall. Didn't I tell you you worked too hard at painting before? Beezus nodded. That was the wonderful thing about it, she thought, as she scrubbed out her muffin tins. Her dragon had been fun, while her flying horse had been work. And she had imagination. Maybe not as much as Ramona, but real imagination just the same. Here's a girl with real imagination, Miss Robbins had said. A girl with real imagination. A girl with real imagination, Beezus thought as she left the building and ran across the park to find the sand pile. Come on, Ramona. It's time to go home, she called to her little sister, who was happily sprinkling sand on a sleeping dog. And let's not forget Ralph. Good old Ralph. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to stop right there. The next chapter, chapter 3, is called Ramona and Ribsy. Oh, I was going to show you a picture of. I wondered what your dragon might have looked like in your mind. Of course, this one isn't colored, but there's Ramona's. All right, have a great day, boys and girls. Chapter 3, tomorrow. Looks like this. Looks like Ramona's in trouble again. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.